Animal identification is critical to any management that we put forth on cattle. We can't make good decisions on culling animals. We can't make good decisions on how to manage these animals if we can't identify them and know who they are, who the mother is, and who the father is. So it's critical that we not only have a system for identification, but also have records that allow us to take that identification and go back in the history of that animal as well. We've got several methods here of identification, and any good identification plan, in my mind anyway, takes into account two different identification methods, because in the real realm of things, you have permanent identification and temporary identification. And the most common identification that we have, of course, is an ear tag, and that ear tag is a temporary form of identification, so we need something to kind of back that up. One thing we don't have out here is freeze brands, and freeze brands are a permanent type, freeze and hot brands are a permanent type of identification. With that in mind, we either use liquid nitrogen or dry ice and alcohol to do the cold brands, and of course heat to do the hot brands. That is damaging to the hide, so we might need to keep in mind that we're reducing the value of the hide on that animal anytime we do that. So let's focus on what we've got here and what we can do as a permanent identification and a temporary. And of course, the permanent identification to me is a tattoo. And we've got two different kinds of tattoos here. We have the Franklin rotary tattoo, where we just turn these belts and select our numbers, up to 4 numbers for each one of those animals. And this one is a good one, but it is kind of heavy, kind of bulky, especially if we're doing smaller calves with smaller ears. The other type of tattoo, which is probably more common, is called a stone tattoo. And it holds up to 4 digits, as you see here. And the thing to keep in mind is, as we look at this tattoo this way, it has to read from right to left as opposed to left to right. So it has to be backwards. These numbers simply come out by flipping this little lock up and pulling these numbers out and interchanging. The thing that we need to keep in mind about this is that this is a great way to transfer viruses, bacteria, things of that nature. So we think about warts, we think about some of those different things. We need to be able to sterilize this in between uses. And what we prefer to use is an alcohol, either a 91% or a 70% isopropyl. Once we get that number in there and we're sure that we've got it right, reading from right to left, then we'll just simply cover that with alcohol and let it set for 30 seconds or so to kill out any viruses that we might have there. Once we do that, in this step usually a rubber glove is nice, we'll take our tattoo ink, and there's a couple of different kinds of ink. Don't pay any attention to the brand name here. There's only a couple of different companies that make this, but this is a paste as opposed to a liquid. The paste, I think, is much better. If we take our finger, squeeze out just about a pea-sized drop of this, and as we go to that animal's ear, we want to specifically locate that tattoo. Where I've drawn this line is where we would need to put that tattoo. So we would spread that ink in kind of a 1/2 inch wide strip right across here. Then we would take our tattoo, come into this animal's ear just like this, and we would depress this and squeeze and hold for about 3 seconds. Now that animal's not going to stand still for that, so we have to be able to move with that animal. Once we take that tattoo out, we go back to our alcohol. We put just a little bit of alcohol on our finger, and we go back and we rub until those little holes that we punched in the ear are filled with that paste. Now we have a tattoo that we'll be able to read later on. 2 or 3 green dots in here does not constitute a permanent form of identification. It needs to be readable. So we want to make sure that we get the ear clean by rubbing with alcohol first. good strip of paste, a good firm to where we get plenty of holes from those tattoos, and then fill those holes up with that paste. That'll give us a legible tattoo that'll be there for the life of the animal. The next thing that we're going to look at is ear tags. And ear tags are not maintenance free. As you can see, we've got little tags, and folks tend to use these in calves thinking, well, I'll change them out later. Well, they don't ever get changed. And this is pretty difficult to read whenever you got hair hanging down to here, and that animal is 100 feet away from you. So we prefer to use a larger tag, either a medium-sized tag, such as this one, and you notice they come in all different colors. We've got green, we've got yellow, and we've got orange here, and there's a multitude of colors. Those colors can be used to indicate different ownership, that type of thing. But notice, we use this size tag even in calves. It's a little large whenever they start out, but this is a tag that you can read from quite a distance. Even with a pair of binoculars at an extended distance, you can read this. This particular size tag is what we use starting out as a young calf. Now, it's totally not without maintenance. As you can see here, we have a tag that was in a cow for a long time, and that cow's still here, but you see how this is faded. So we went back during one of our regular herd checks. If we can't read that tag from a distance, we cut it out and replace it with a new tag. We need to be able to read these tags. Now, we've got a tattoo, we've got a tag, those both need to be the same number. In other words, the tag, or the calf that this tag is going in, will have a tattoo of 1272. So that if this tag is lost or becomes not legible, like this one, we'll know what kind of a tag to put back in with what kind of number. We prefer to use a marking pencil and a blank tag because our numbering system started with 1 about 20 years ago. You can also have a numbering system that the first 2 numbers represent the year, last 2 numbers represent the number in which the calf was born, the sequence in which the calf was born. So there's a number of different numbering techniques that we can use. The third thing that we need to do, and this is a marketing tool, and that's using radio frequency ID tags. You can see there's quite a long number on that tag, and there's a little chip inside this tag. There's no information stored on this tag other than that number. So whenever that tag is scanned, all it does is bring that number up. So this doesn't identify where the calf's at or anything else. The records that are attached to this number identify where that calf might have been. These are required for interstate movement on several different classes of cattle. So this increases your marketing ability on breeding animals. This one requires a special applicator. We just simply slide this in with our tag on this pin, such as this, and then whenever we put that in, we put that in with this heavy part of the tag that you see here on the inside of the ear, and we go in right where this black dot is. So now we've not defiled our tattoo at all by putting this tag in, and when we put our regular tag in, such as this one that we're going to use for identification, we will come in and place this tag where this black dot is here. So now then we have 3 different kinds of identification in this tag, or in this calf's ear, none of which have interfered with the other. But the way that we put those in, the order in which we put those in is important. Since this one requires more work, the tattoo, we'll put the tattoo in first. Then we'll put the identification tag. And then as a final deal, we'll put our EID tag in. Now we've got that calf ready to go with a permanent form of identification, temporary form that we can read out the truck window, and a form of identification that allows us to move that calf across state lines, greatly increasing the value of that calf whenever we're marketing. Just a quick word about where to get these tags. Of course, these tags can be ordered from any animal health supplier, can also be ordered or picked up at local supply companies. The tattoos, of course, are reusable, and they can be bought at any animal supply. But this radio frequency ID tag can actually be had free of charge from the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. Simply give them a call. They will assign you a farm number, and they will give you up to 100 tags and a tagger. But those tags are attached to your farm, so you don't want to give your neighbor a few and the other neighbor a few, that type of thing. These are to be used only on calves produced on your farm whenever you get them from the Tennessee Department of Ag, because these numbers are tied back to your farm. So with that in mind, let's go to the barn and let's do some identification on a calf.